My cousin, when she tries to sound white, she sounds like an imposter. Hello, hi, it's Anna. I am calling.
In the United Kingdom, October marks the beginning of Black History Month. This national celebration aims to promote and celebrate the contributions of those with African and Caribbean heritage to British society and to foster an understanding of Black history in general. This year's theme is Before Windrush, an exploration of the lives and stories of the Black Britons who were living in the UK before the arrival of the Empire Windrush in 1948. And to amplify the voices of Black people who live in the UK, here on Tenjue Unplugged, during the month of October, we have invited different guests to come and share their experiences of what it's like to be Black in the United Kingdom. And today's guest is comedian Dana Alexandra. Hello, Dana, and welcome to Tenjue Unplugged. Happy Black History Month.
Hello, Tenjiwe. You all right? Happy Black History Month, girl. Black History Year. Black History Life.
First question is, what is Black History Month?
Black History Month is about reclaiming history that was purposefully left out of the curriculum. Because, of course, when you look at the history of the Americas and Europe, let's be honest, it's a very ugly history filled with genocide. Like, a lot of people will come away thinking Hitler was the worst thing that ever happened. But a lot of people have never even heard of Leopold. They don't know about the Second Reich in Namibia. So I feel like a lot of our contributions, for example, this idea that we didn't actually have any history until white people came along, that we were just savages running around in the jungle, right? It's about reclaiming who we are and going back to the past. We have just a proud lineage as anyone else does, and we should know those stories because that's who we are.
And is 1 month enough to celebrate Black history?
No, I said Black History Life, okay? This Black History Life.
I've always wondered why 1 month and why October in the UK and February in the US. Because in South Africa, we don't have a Black History Month. We don't have a month where we say celebrate white history, celebrate Indian history. Why Black History Month?
Well, they like to remix their history all year round, like I think one of the biggest fallacies, and people always talk about this in the Americas during Thanksgiving, was like, who is Christopher Columbus? This idea that a place that has millions of people could even be discovered, right? Because the whole idea is that they weren't people. So people are starting to look back on that history. I mean, the fact that we still call indigenous Native Americans Indians instead of just acknowledging that Christopher Columbus is lost tells you what a remix we've put on this story in the West.
Hmm, that is so true. A lot of our history was lost, and a lot of their stories were not told in a truthful way. And this year's theme, because every year they give a theme to Black History Month, this year's theme is Before the Windrush. What is the Windrush?
Well, after the Second World War and the Spanish flu, which took out basically Britain was in a situation not too dissimilar from now, where there were a lot of skilled labor shortages. So of course, um, Jamaica was a colony of Britain. In fact, it didn't even get its independence until 1960, though it did remain a part of the Commonwealth with the Queen as head of state. But there were a lot of people, like my grandfather, for instance, that were called to come into Britain because they were had a really acute labor shortage, specifically within trade. So my grandfather was a man who would basically tell teams of men how to repair the engines on ships. That was his job. And they didn't have so a lot of these workers from the Caribbean, they came in, ended up working in various trades jobs, ended up working on the TFL, for London Underground as train conductors and things like that. So what was happening before that? Well, I guess right before the Windrush, because when you look at the Windrush, that's 1957. We have the end of the Second World War in 1945, and you're African, so you must know right around the 1960s, people started getting their independence. So Jamaica was a country just trying to rebuild itself after the Second World War, like most countries were. And when they saw an economic opportunity to get themselves out of the poverty that colonialism brought to them, they took it and immigrated to the UK.
For me, because I grew up in South Africa and I grew up in apartheid South Africa, I was not taught about other countries. There's so many countries I did not know about until I was very old. I didn't know about the Windrush and a lot of Caribbean countries. I just knew about Jamaica because of the music. In fact, growing up, I thought Bob Marley was from Soweto. We used to sing his songs in Zulu. We thought he was singing Zulu. So I didn't know much about the world. And the few African countries that will be shown to us will be the ones where there was famine or there was war, so that we'll be scared and feel like we are doing better than them.
The anti-African propaganda also sadly stretched into North American and Caribbean populations, and it really hurts me to think that you as a South African was also having to experience that propaganda, especially because you were in Africa and you'd think that you know who you are.
No. And I've got some questions that I asked our viewers would they want to know. The first question is, what are there any challenges that you face being black in the UK? Any challenges facing black people in the UK?
Well, and I think you can probably relate to this. And it's hard for me to say what challenges I face as a Black woman because I've never been anything but a Black woman. Um, I know that I can't mess up in the same way that my colleagues can. If I have a bad show, I won't be playing that club for years, but that guy might get a pass. I've seen that happen. I've seen myself middling for people that I'm more experienced than, with more credits and funnier than. That's happened to me a few times. But people often get that wrong, even if you're not um, a Black female. What's been really nice is to see the turnaround because they oversaturated their own market. So now they've really put Black people, foreigners, and women in demand. They've almost wrecked their own thing from just saturating it with all boring white guys. If you're funny, you'll survive.
Yeah. And the next question is, what's the one thing you wish you were taught in school?
Anger management. Anger management. Do I need to
Do you think they should?
elaborate?
Do you think they should be teaching that in schools?
Well, I think a little bit of critical race theory, maybe. Maybe I'll take that back because what I'm seeing as I'm getting older as a Black woman is they gaslight our community in a way that they don't do to other communities. You would never tell a Jewish person to forget about the Holocaust, right? But so quickly they'll tell Black people that, the latest one that I heard was, oh, they're force feeding London Black people into this narrative of oppression. It's like, don't you think they live in this neighborhoods? They live in that council. They see the condition of their flats. They see that how their schools are run. They see the violence in their community. They see their kids being harassed by the police. You've acknowledged the discrimination when it comes to just having an African name if you want to apply for a job, you have to apply for 9 times more job. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. The waters are very muddy.
What's the one lie you were told about Africa?
I've been told so many. I really got to comb through. Well, the biggest lie is the map. So there's something called the I think it's called the Mercator projection, where basically they made the globe based on a cylinder. So it was all put around the equator. So in order for it to be easier to navigate Western countries, countries like South America and Africa were shrunken. So I remember when I had to work in Johannesburg coming from Cape Town, and I'm familiar with the globe, and I looked at the globe and I'm thinking, oh, that's a drive. That's so short when I look at the globe. They're like, no, that's a 2 hour flight. But then I'm like, wow, a 2 hour flight on my side of the map is this big. You just shrunk the whole of Africa. Like Africa can fit the USA, all of China, all of India, basically all of Eastern, Western Europe, Japan, and the UK. I don't think people realize how big Africa is. It's massive.
And England can fit into South Africa 5 times.
Thank you. And South Africa is a very small country within the 52 countries in Africa, comparatively speaking.
What you say about the math, because that's why it's important for us to write our own books, write our own history, and record uh, our own documentaries, like even recording your own family members, your own grandmother, so that you hear the stories from them, because they are watered down, including when you look at documentaries like when Martin Luther King said the speech. It's always shown in black and white, and you're like, there was already color, because they wanted to condition us to think that it happened a long time ago.
Well, it's deeper than that. I think you definitely have to know your film history, because I think in most cases you can look at the quality of film and hear the sound speed and know what decade you're in. So that's always very informative. But what I think is even more important is understanding the context of history, right? So being able to connect the dots, because even if you can talk to your parents or your grandparents, that doesn't mean they're going to tell you the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, the thing about people who have been traumatized is they want to forget their trauma. So my mother had a very my mother's a mixed race woman. Her grandmother was a very racist woman who was raised, in an Italian household, married to an Irishman. Um, but my mother didn't really understand her grandmother, and I can understand why, because anytime my mother came near to her wheelchair, my grandmother would whack her with her stick. But also, my grandmother had 12 kids, two died. She was an adult during World War I and World War II. She, and with all those kids and the depression in between those days, not to mention the racism. I mean, she was a bastard. She didn't even have her real last name. Her name was Newman, and she somehow convinced my grandmother she was Italian. I'm like, you're not Italian. And then my mother went and got her blood done, and sure enough, we're British. She was a bastard, and her mother remarried an Italian man, so she was raised with the Rustighinis. But I had to, when I realized, my God, this woman had 12 kids, two died, World War I, World War II, and the Depression. She worked her whole life scrubbing floors. This is the white side, okay? The kids had to have jobs growing up, and then when she finally retired, within weeks of her retirement, she was in a wheelchair because she messed her body up so much scrubbing floors. So understanding the context of history is so important. Like, you saw what happened in Canada when they all stood up and clapped a Nazi this week. Hello.
Yeah, that
So
is so true.
crazy.
Yeah. And are schools doing enough to teach about Black history?
They're sure trying, but the government keeps coming down. Critical race theory is basically the end of the Wizard of Oz, where you take the curtain up and you say, "This is the Wiz, this shriveling little geek pulling the levers behind the curtain." That's what's really happening. So, what they don't want is kids to have a better understanding of how these systems oppress them in certain ways. But I always took it upon myself, especially with Black. I think the whole thing about Black History Month is we realize as Black people that we have to educate each other and keep telling these stories within our community, because why are British people going to sit there and tell you that they put how many people in a concentration camp and tortured this many people and stole this land? They put statues up of human traffickers in this country. Like, why do we ever think we're going to get our Black history from the same people who are singing "And We Shall Never Be Slaves"? What are you talking about?
Who is the most inspirational Black Briton?
Oh, I have a few, but I'll say lately because it changes for me. I have two. Can I say two?
Yes.
I love Kaindi Andrews. That man, I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's from Birmingham. I think he's a single dad. I think sadly his wife passed away of cancer last year. He just wrote a book called the White Psychosis, Culture of White Psychosis, something like that. Anyways, he's always on all these talk shows, and he's one of the he's a Black history professor in Birmingham, and the way they gaslight this man on broadcast television, and he just manages to keep his cool. But the thing is, he never gets to a point, and this is why I think the psychosis of whiteness, that's what it's called. um he never gets to the point because these segments are only 10, 12 minutes long, but the patience for him to be gaslit. I love Kalechi. I don't know if you know her. This she pops. I love Dr. Shola. I have a few Black Britons that I really admire.
I'm a big fan of Dr. Shola.
I love it. She just, what the thing about Nigerians is they are here. No one can tell them they are not here. They will be heard. Even if you put your earphones in, you will still hear them. They have the loudest voices of anyone I've ever met on the planet, and they're proud and they're strong.
Are you sure you are not related to Dr. Shola?
Well, we are West Africans, Jamaicans. I know that on my mother's side, I'm like six different types of West African, and apparently we're Ashanti out of Ghana on my father's side, on one side of his family.
Wow, nice. Was it difficult for you to find your African background?
Well, my grandfather did it in the 90s, and he changed his name from Wright to Ajiman. So he was on that journey a long time ago. And even my father it's so strange because a lot of Jamaicans weren't necessarily pro-African. They wanted to align themselves more with white culture for prestigious purposes, but Africans are coming up now. But my dad was all about that life. Like, girl, I know all the South African freedom songs. Okay, my dad was all about that life in the 90s. So, like, I remember when Mandela was free. I all of the, like, and celebrating, and the yeah, girl, yes.
Television played a big role in how Jamaicans or Caribbeans treated Africans or felt about Africa because of what was shown to be Africa on television. And now that we have social media where people can see the real Africa, the real Africans, they they know better. Just like us in South Africa, we were shown other African countries. We were scared. We felt like even if we go there, they will eat you. But we didn't know we were being
Well,
conditioned.
you were divided, and you were being terrorized by various European, entities that sought to divide you in order to conquer you. So, And the thing is, bad news is sensational. It's some of the most beautiful places. When I went to Cape Town is gorgeous. Do you know what I mean? Actually, I was very proud of this because my mom had a misconception about South Africa. And I told her she was crazy because she's a world traveler. And I said, as a black woman, it's so disappointing for me to hear that from you. And you know what? She ponied up. I think she got her little 30,000 Canadian dollars together, which is not cheap. She went to South Africa, Zimbabwe, went on safari, went to Cape Town, went to Joburg. Like she went on like the trip of a lifetime, bought like a camera, watched cheetahs. Like she went to South Africa in a way that I didn't. So I'm glad that at least like my mother's mixed race, so she never got that chance to be proud of herself. She never grew up around like she never had black girlfriends in her whole life until she was about 60 years old. I was like the black person in her life, and she would Karen me sometimes, my own mother. But I'm glad now that like she's starting to meet other black women. But it's crazy because she's also gay, so that's a whole other conflict. Because now her whole office is black women, and some of them are from all over Africa, and they do not condone that. But at least she's learning how to do her hair properly.
Ah, you are too funny. But I'm happy for her. I'm happy that she's been to Africa. I'm happy she's living a life that is is good.
I'm happy she finally has black female friends because that was so important to me. Even though I grew up in a white community, I had a very, very strong black female group of friends, that I went to church with, that lived in the neighborhood. I'm still friends with some of them today. We still see each other and talk on Facebook and chat on the phone. So, yeah, you need somebody who understands. I think it's difficult when you're mixed race sometimes because you just don't know where you fit in. And even when you break it down to like us, like my generation, we were like first generation. So all of our parents were born in the Caribbean. And then we had like our family members and cousins who came straight from Jamaica. They didn't want to chill with us. We were basically like white girls to them, So then there's even more of a division. But as we get older, we start to come together more and realize.
Who is your favorite historical black figure from anywhere in the world? Doesn't have to be from the UK.
Nanny Maroon. Nanny Maroon. She's a guerrilla warfare fighter. So Jamaica was originally colonized by the Spanish. And the Spanish, before the Brits decided to take the colony, in order to mess up the Brits, they let a bunch of their enslaved people free who started building renegade communities in Blue Mountain cockpit area. So they were building a resistance. So this was like the mother of guerrilla warfare there. And Queen Nzinga as well. Bad bitches. That's who I like, honestly, because the role of women, I feel, in history has oftentimes been played down, but there is no denying like some of the heroines, even look, Harriet Tubman. Do you know what I mean? Like we have Angela Davis, Asada Shakur. We have some badass like renegade women who will just like they are ready they're ready to die. Winnie Mandela, like proper. There's a few, but I like to look up to other black women.
Choose one. You have to choose one. You've given me too many. If you gave me two, I'll be okay.
Oh, I would say Nanny Maroon. Nanny Maroon.
So if you had to have, if you could have a dinner with any of them, you would choose Nene Maroon.
Oh, yes, but only if we could cook like Jamaican old school like style, like in the bush with the pimento bark and like the old style way, like how they made jerk. Because all of the stuff what we make our food with is stuff that we could grow and pick. Like if I could really, yeah, I would definitely pick Nanny Maroon. There's so much history behind our food as well because we had to hide.
Oh, chef, you're such a good cook. So you
Oh,
could do all the cooking.
cooking makes me so happy. I need to be more like, the one thing I like about my boyfriend is he's more of a bushman. Like he'll go out and kill a pig even. I'll tell you this. Do you know he caught a mouse with his bare hands and he sent me the photo, the video. That's all he wanted was to take a video and I was like, "What are you doing right now?" Like I'm very much like I'll do like the finishing, I'll cut the herbs and the onions and do the frying and the marinating, but I don't like to get too dirty. But I know I need to know.
Uh, and how do you celebrate Black History Month? And how would you recommend for people to celebrate Black History Month? What can we do?
Well, I wish the sad thing about Black History Month is there's not a ton to celebrate, sadly. It's a lot of lamenting and like, damn, they did what? When you actually find out about your history. But one celebration that I love that is historical and Black is Notting Hill Carnival. There is nothing better than jumping in front of a sound system in the sunshine, shaking your ass. Do you know what I mean? Drinking a tonic wine, trying not to let some random guy jump on the back of you. I know, whatever you want to say, but like for me, that's like it's almost like when St. Patrick's Day come around. Like the Irish people have had a lot of hardships, but I remember I was doing an episode and they're like, "Oh, let's not talk about it on St. Patrick's Day." I feel like Black History Month is not as celebratory as like Martin Luther King Day or Carnival Day. Do you know what I mean? So like I tend but I'll tell you this, I get my black joy on every day.
I wish they had the carnival on Black History Month, don't you think? Or would it take away from the carnival?
It's just too cold. It's too hot. It's like it would be too cold to do it in October. You know, you want a hot day where you can skin out in your little whatever tank top. You want a summer day for that, right? Because it's a Caribbean thing. So unless they're prepared, nah. Do you know what? I feel like spread up all of our stuff. I'm ready for Juneteenth. I'm ready for Kwanzaa. Ready for both Black histories. Just spread it up.
I was going to ask, do you celebrate the U.S. Black History as well, United States of America? Because there,
Canada, yeah.
and Canada does February as well.
Hmm. Yes, of course. I told you I celebrate Black History Life. This year I'm going to do a lot more focused online stuff specifically for this Black history because I think now when you look at what they're taking out of the curriculum specifically within the US, I want to find like little ways that we can educate our community on social media in little tiny doses just about little things that you never know where certain things come from. Like, why do Black women feel the need to perm their hair? Where did that come from? Then you find out, oh my God, your hair was actually outlawed. Did you know that you were made to cover your hair in France because of these reasons? But starting to break down just the little things. But I feel like that's something that I just endeavor to do all year. Like I don't want to say that I don't believe in Black history because I do month because but I just believe in Black history life. That's me.
How you're saying it's so important for us to talk about the things. One of your shows that I really enjoyed was Don't Talk About White Jesus. Don't tell me about White Jesus, the stand-up comedy show.
Don't start me on white Jesus because that is a long conversation.
Yeah, I love shows like that, and I think we should support people who do edutainment, where we're not just being entertained, but we're also being educated at the same time. Where can we watch the show? Because I would love to watch it again.
No, I didn't record the show, but that material will become recorded. And it has been recorded in pieces. There are parts of the show that don't work as well in the clubs, and then stuff that I was using from doing commentary from news broadcasts that just wouldn't work in a stand-up set. But Yeah, I tend to I want to take that vein of material a little bit further, especially now when we look at our political climate. I think it's a bit crazy what's happening in Britain right now.
Now, Dana, I grew up in South Africa, and whenever I have other Africans on the show, there's a game I like to play with them. But you didn't grow up in Africa. You grew up in Canada, and then you moved to the UK. You didn't even grow up in the Caribbean. But I just want to see if we have any similarities. It's called You Know You Are African When. Everyone older than you is either auntie or uncle. You put some respect on it, whether you know them or not, as long as they are older than you have to address them as auntie or uncle.
Yeah, do you know how many black kids I'm auntie to, please? That I'm not related to? Yes, that still runs. Yes.
What I don't like is when I'm in a club and then they start calling me auntie. I'm like, yes, you're respecting me, but now I'm also here looking for uncles. Stop calling me auntie. Sometimes I even change my name and say, no, 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 it's short for Antigua. Antigua is my name. Like, why are you calling me auntie in a club?
Yeah, I've started to get called auntie.
Maybe it's
But
time I stop calling clubs.
it wasn't even at the club. I was just trying to buy like an old school pipe from the 90s. They're like, auntie, just get the Rizla. I'm like, don't you listen? Me smoke weed before you're born. Little children trying to school me on weed life. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's nice to be respected, but it also makes it difficult for me to date younger guys because what you're gonna call me, auntie darling, auntie sweetheart? No, thanks.
Oh no, no. The guys I date do not call me auntie. That's for sure. Thank fucking God. Mm, that would be the end of everything.
Do Africans stare at you to try and figure out which country you are from? Oh, I get this one all the time.
Yeah, and the funniest part was they when they did it the most was Morocco. They love to tell me I was African in Morocco. I'm like, bitch, you're African. We're in Africa. And I would tell them I'm Canadian, I'm Jamaican. They're like, no, you're too rude. You must be African. I was like, "What? Okay.
And they love Jamaicans. They
Huh?
love us Jamaicans.
Oh, they love Jamaicans. But they don't believe that
Just
I'm Jamaican because I sound American and they don't even understand Canadians.
do you ever feel the need to speak in an African accent when you are around Africans?
I speak patois. Yeah, but I also speak Jamaican patois to white people and other non-black people just so they know I'm fucking serious. Like sometimes my boyfriend, because he's learning English, he's like, oh, he's Jamaican, you're speaking to me. And I'm just like, man, that's because I'm comfortable. I'll just speak if I'm comfortable. The thing about Jamaicans is Jamaicans don't stop speaking Jamaican just because you're not Jamaican. Do you know what I mean? Like you'll hear a cab driver call somebody a bumbleclot and he's from India. Like that's the one thing white people don't understand in England. They want to preserve their culture, but the only way they're going to preserve their culture, Japanese don't understand this either, is that they have to share it, because it's in the sharing that your culture is promoted, celebrated. People are listening to your music, buying your food, your fashion. You know what I mean? Americans don't sit there and try to hoard their culture. You can't wear that. You're not American. No, everybody's trying to. They're like, yeah, man. That's how you preserve culture, is to share it. A lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people don't know this, but there are less than 3 million people that live in Jamaica, and this is the culture, and this is the culture. Yeah, and less than half the population of London, and you see how strong our culture is. Tell me one thing about Kazakhstan, you know?
Give us a sample of patois.
You want a sample of patois? You want me to say? What you want to talk about? I could just speak patois to you. Like it's nothing. It's nothing for me. You want a little sample of patois? I don't know if I say it to you, but this are patois. I chat patois. You just have to give me something to say. But yeah.
Were you formally taught to speak patois, or did you just pick it up from family members or from the streets or TV? Like, how did you learn it? Because growing up in Canada, I don't think you would have been speaking patois in school or with your friends in that white neighborhood where you grew up.
No, in my with my Jamaican family, like my cousin Marine and my father's uncle, who we called Grandpa, they speak and even my dad sometimes. But like the thing about Jamaicans is Jamaicans don't stop. They don't code switch in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like first generation like me can code switch better, but like my 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 cousin, when she tries to sound white, she sounds like an imposter. Hello, hi, it's Anna. I am calling for. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not natural.
Dana Alexandra, we would love to get to know you better. So, what we did is we visited your Instagram and we borrowed a few photos, and we would like you to explain what was happening in these photos.
Oh Lord. Okay, so I went to go see a couple of my favorite drag queens, Lala Ree and Jimbo the queen, winner of last All Star season, and we're in Birmingham. And I've always wanted to get on the bull, and there were all these kids getting on the bull, and Aaron is another comedian there. Hey, Aaron, who's actually an acrobat. Like he does like all the silks and stuff like that. So I was just like, you know what? Let me climb this bull. I'm one of those people. Like when I'm ready to do something, I'm just gonna get on there, and we did it. I climbed the bull, but at least you guys didn't have to see me get off that bull. That shit was not easy.
What if somebody took photos or videos of you and one day we see you on the internet?
I hope Mehdi didn't do it. I hope, but he probably did. His shady ass watching me try. It was like I was trying to do splits. The families were looking at me like I was crazy. It was in a dress. It was so inappropriate. I hope nobody has that on video.
These days, you never know. People will be taking photos of you while you are drowning instead of helping.
Aw, the tiny chef. Yeah, so this is a Nickelodeon kids TV show. Actually was narrated by RuPaul, funny enough, my hero. But I should have said that instead of Nanny Maroon. So yeah, Tiny Chef, he lives in a stump of a tree and we are very, very good friends. And I am his food delivery person. So he keeps a picture of me in his tree stump, and sometimes he invites. I can't fit in the tree stump, but the last time I saw him, we were watching a movie on top of his tree stump with his other little friends. I had to bend down the whole time. It was not comfortable, but he's very lovely, and he made me popcorn through the chimney. He's a very, very lovely person.
Where can we access the episodes if we wanted to watch you and Tiny Chef?
Nickelodeon. Oh Lord, have mercy. Mercy, mercy. Can you see if you look in my eyes in most of these pictures? I'm either being gaslit or a devil is ready to jump out of my body. So there's a horrible news station called GB News who gave me the opportunity to fight with Tories on TV, and I did it. Did you hear the latest scandal?
Oh no, what happened? What's the latest? Your news every
Oh
day.
Lord. So, one of the girls that I fought two times, it wasn't even like going to work. It was like I had to fight her two times on the news. That's how it feels because they really set you up against each other. This black conservative sellout. Anyways, turns out she had a column for the Daily Mail. there's these old white dudes that are writing borderline racist anti-black articles and getting black conservatives to say that they're articles from them, so they're being ghost written by old racist white dudes.
Oh yeah, I read about that in the news, in the newspaper. Like, I'm still shocked that black people will allow their names to be used like
Listen,
that.
I called that shit on air. One time she tried me. I said, "Girl, you know what side your bread is buttered on?" And she looked at me with all types of shock. But I have one thing to say to those that girl, "Dirty gal." How could she sell out black people like this?
Would you do it if they paid you money to say you are saying the things they are saying?
They couldn't. They could because it was live.
You did very well. I'm really proud of you, and thank you so much for representing us and being able to really stand by what you believe in. You represented black people, LGBTQ plus.
Thank you. Oh, those are my grandparents. That's my granny and my grandfather, my mother's parents. My grandfather is Windrush. He came to Britain in, I think it was 1957, and then he got my grandmother pregnant in 1959, and they had my mother in 1960. This is their wedding photo. I don't know if you've noticed this, but she's wearing a blazer to her wedding. She's also heavily pregnant.
And she's pregnant with a black man's child in 1959.
Yeah, and the one thing that pisses me off is she's in high heels, right? She's short. She's probably about 5'1". He's 6'6" or 7". Why do all these short girls have to take up the tall men? Like the thing that bothers me is that I have these short genes inside of me. Imagine if I pop out. I mean, maybe it's a bit late. I'm 41, but
Girl, you can still have a child at 41. People have children in their 50s. Janet Jackson, how old was she?
girl, I can't even imagine.
You actually have your grandmother's face.
I was looking at her. We do have some similarities.
You do actually have the same face. Was she funny? Were they funny? Where do you get the funny from?
Um, Both my mom and my dad are funny, but they're not funny in the way that I am. I guess my mother's more outrageous, which is where I can be. A lot of my jokes really hit. My father is not outrageous. My father is very Christian, but he has a good, like, dad joke sense of humor. Um, so I don't know. I think I get it probably equally from both because they're all they all we all laugh. We've all of us laugh. Everybody in my family can tell a joke.
And why did they move from the UK to Canada? What year did they move? And what inspired the move to move such a long way? Because UK, Canada, that's a long way.
My grandfather bet some money on some horses, and his numbers won in 1965. He won £67,000, and he wanted to move to Australia because, of course, the weather is better. But they had the no blacks, the all whites policy in Australia. So he moved to Canada and he had enough money to buy, was it two or three houses? So he bought a farm where they lived and they farmed. And then another house was used as an income property. But I think initially, before they moved to Wainwright, or was it Wayne Fleet? I can't remember. It's either one of Wayne Fleet or Wainwright. One's in Alberta, one's in Ontario, which is not too far from Niagara. They were in Burlington, Ontario for a couple of years up until my mom was maybe 13. Then they moved to the middle of nowhere because my grandfather's from Guyana. His grandfather's from Pakistan.
Wow, Pakistan.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he has an interesting background, but he didn't even finish school. But back in the day, like he just knew how to fix engines. He was a mechanic. It's weird. Like I come from nurses and builders. My dad's the only weird one. Somehow he's a musician preacher, but everybody else is like a nurse or a builder.
You build jokes. and you use them to heal people. So you are a nurse.
Oh,
Well,
I guess so. My sister's in law school. My brother's living off of his divorce money.
oh, why didn't I say, give me money?
Well, his husband moved on and he gets his money. That's life.
Some people are so lucky with their divorces. And so that's an interesting story. But because they were, is that how you came back to live in England?
Yeah, so I have what's called right of abode. I qualify for my British citizenship as well. I wasn't sure because part of me wants to get my Jamaican citizenship because that would make a lot of travel and citizenship easier in Africa. And then there's another part of me that also wants to get my American citizenship, and you can only have three passports. So I just figured with right of abode, because it's basically as powerful as a passport, I'll just keep that.
So in America, would you get it also through ancestry or
No, I would probably have to apply on my own steam as a comedian.
okay? You are so lucky because other countries do not even allow you to have dual citizenship, let alone three. So to be able to have three, that's very lucky.
Well, I know for Canada, you got three is the tops. Like I know, because I know Kim Cattrall has her American, British, and Canadian. So I wouldn't mind having my Canadian, American, Jamaican, and then right of abode in Britain. Mhm.
Yeah, especially now with Britain not even being part of the EU after
Well, we'll
Brexit.
see. I don't know. I think Britain will eventually rejoin. This was the dumbest thing this country has ever done.
Before I let you go, let us educate people by playing one of my favorite games, which is things you should never say to an African. Let's go. Things you should never say in court to a black judge.
I'm guilty. No, she. um. Oh God, there's so many things. Which court? American court or British court? Oh God. I wouldn't comment on the wig if you were in British court because that looks a mess. What would I never say to a black judge? Well, as a police officer, and if you did something to a black person, I think one stupid thing to say would be like, "What was I supposed to think?" Which anything that implicates you as a racist immediately. I mean, there's so many things not to say to a judge. That's a long list, black or white. Okay.
Things a black prostitute would never say.
Oh, that's so hard. It's been so long since I've been on the corner. I'm joking. Things a black prostitute, help! Because that would just be pointless. Everyone's failed you.
Things you should never say in a relationship with a black person.
Oh, I could just look at things that were said to me. Do you know, I really like straight hair. I said, find a white woman. I didn't beg you to come here. I went. I said, don't ever tell me about my hair. This is my hair. Unless you have 2 hours to be braiding up my hair every night, don't even come for my hair. Don't even think on this planet you could talk about my fucking hair.
I don't even let them touch my hair. You do not play with my hair. You do not touch my hair. Things you should never say at a black funeral.
I knew this would happen. Do you know what's so crazy? Do you know one of the best businesses you can run in the ghetto? Selling caskets.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why as well? Do you know that you actually have to get like caskets for obese people, like special caskets? America is wild, girl.
Things you should never say to a pregnant woman, black women in particular.
Well, I think you should just never say to any woman with a big belly, when are you expecting? Because I've made that mistake twice. I'm still not over it. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the worst you can do to a woman. You think if you think a woman is pregnant, even if her water has broken, don't mention that shit because you just there are some fat bitches out here that look that look pregnant. You know it's true. Just leave it alone. I learned the hard way twice. Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
I can imagine how it would feel to have to say, I am not pregnant. Having said that, some guys, though, when they take their top off, you're like, what do I do? Throw you a baby shower, buy you a bra? So it's not just a problem with the ladies.
I don't mind a little chubby king.
A
You know
little
what? For me, I'll tell you this.
pregnant.
In this world, I just like a man who is nice to me.
I like men who like me.
Like honestly, like if you're kind to me, if you treat me right and we have a fun time together, I'm pretty cool with anything. Just treat me right.
I live on the third floor. You must be able to climb those stairs.
Okay, fair enough. My guy's very fit. I never been with a guy that's so like, mm-mm-mm. And I'm not exactly like the slimmest lady on the planet, but he's so nice about the way I look, and he's so kind to me. I just, you know, people people are people, and even when you really love somebody, bodies change, health changes. I've had, oh God, the guy I was with, the guy in Canada who was this fat Italian man. He's the well, not as hairy as this one now, but he was hairy, like so hairy you couldn't tell what race he was from the back.
You had your own Harry
And
Potter.
yes, yes, he was. Oh, girl, but I loved his little chubby self. He had a good personality. He had nice hair. He was sweet to me. I liked him.
But I've been with people where that I thought were good and sexy, and as soon as we break up, I'm like, what was I doing here? Look at his eyes, look at his legs, look at I think when you love someone, when you like them, everything about
Well,
them is good.
I'm not Cindy Crawford over here. I have things that I could change about my body, but like I think for me, personality goes such a long way with me.
Two things that white people should never ever say to black people.
I have a dream. Your dream has been our nightmare. The other one is I hate when right wing people say, I want to be judged on the content of my character. I'm like, you're a racist prick. What do you want me to say about you?
And where can people find you on social media? Where can we connect with you on the socials?
I am comedian Dana, as down below right here. Yay. And that is on Instagram and TikTok. You can find me, Dana Alexander, on Facebook. I'm around. Twitter too.
And people who want to watch you live, where can people find you during the month of October? Where are you performing in the month of October for Black History Month?
Oh, I don't know about London because I go to Sweden and Dubai, and then I have a gig in Birmingham and then somewhere else, another town. So I don't even think I'm doing London.
And on Sunday, the 22nd of October, we are in Birmingham performing at the Glee Club for the Kings and Queens of Comedy. You don't want to miss that show.
The same show we're doing. Yeah, we're doing Birmingham together. Yeah. I have to basically run from the airport to Birmingham.
Do you gamble? Because I would if my grandfather or my grandmother wants that much money, I would.
I play
I think
poker. but it's been a
Mm.
while. I believe in poker because poker is calculated risk, and it's a game of odds and playing the player. It's not like you just roulette where you just waiting for your numbers to come up. Like if you're good at poker and you could grind it out, you could make some money. I'm
Do you
about
play,
money when it comes to gambling.
do you play the lottery?
No. I mean, I have, but like only because my boyfriend be like, "Please play these numbers. The stars are some nonsense." I'd be like, "Okay." But no, I don't play the lottery.
What would be an equivalent of 67,000 in today's money?
2 million Canadian pounds. So maybe 1.2 2 million Canadian dollars. So 1.2 million pounds.
A lot. Yeah. If you won that much, would you still live in the UK or would you move?
The thing I like about the UK is that the UK makes it easy to go everywhere else. Do you know? Everywhere else is kind of far. The thing is about London is you can fly anywhere in the world from London. Think about
True.
it. How many, even if you're flying from New York and you want to go to Singapore, Dubai, Africa, chances are you're going to change flights in London.
That
Do you
is so
know?
true.
So, and also too, the pound is strong. Also too, I have good, I don't pay crazy rent and I live in London. And girl, that's like a Christmas miracle.
But when you become a millionaire, would you still?
No, I don't. I probably not. I probably move to the States. Um, but I would always, I, I don't know. There's something about me that has the need to be connected to the world. So I can't think of a time in my life when I'll stop going to Canada or the US or Asia or the Middle East or Europe or Africa. Like I'll and I want to see more. I want to see South America. I want to see Japan. I want to see Thailand. I want to, there's so much more that I want to see in this world. So I don't think of myself as a person who would have just like one residence. I'd probably live in two decently priced or three different decently priced places because I think any living any one place would drive me crazy. And the thing I like about London is that you can always I'm always working somewhere else, you know?
And would you still continue doing comedy? Because comedy makes you travel a lot. You are always like,
I like doing comedy. You know, the thing is I make enough of a passive income. I don't have to do comedy gigs if I don't want to. I do comedy gigs because I really do enjoy being on stage. Um like I didn't do this for the money. I did this for the love, and that's real. I mean, okay, yes, it has made me a little lazier. I'm not as eager to go as far for smaller money or whatever, but I mean, I haven't done my invoices in like 3 months. I need to actually do them. But yeah, I'll always do comedy. Why wouldn't I mean that's I don't know. It's the only thing I know how to be. I've always been a comic. I since I was 18. Like what if I didn't do comedy, what would I do? I mean, I would write a cookbook. I am writing a cookbook. I have other things that I would do, but no, I love comedy. I'll always do comedy.
that is good. That is good to know. So do what you love so that even money cannot be a distraction. And it's nice
Nope.
when you do what you love. And because, especially for you, because you are very similar to me in that we love to travel and we love comedy. And comedy allows us to travel, and in most cases for free because we're going to
For
work.
free, and you come back with a bag of money, and but I just like the learning. Like when I'm home in the day, I have the History Channel playing all day. I am so obsessed with other people's countries and culture and food and custom. I'm just that's it's everything. That's every it's everything about me. I don't know what it maybe it's because I come from so many different places when I look at my my background with the Jamaican, Guyanese, Irish, English, Pakistani, all of this. But I feel like I have FOMO. Like I always I want to know what's like I want to know what's happening all over the world all the time. I want to be that person.
Thank you so much, Dana, for joining us on Black History Month. And thank you so much to everyone who watched the video. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, and leave us a comment. Do you celebrate Black History Month? Does it mean anything to you? And do you have anything that we should be attending during Black History Month, which is in October in the UK? And let us know where you are watching from and when do you celebrate Black History Month where you are, if you actually do celebrate it. Thank you and bye.
Bye. Take care.